This is part 3 of the story about how my parents and I have come to Japan in search of our family's past. My mother's parents came to Japan in 1932 and left Japan just before Pearl Harbor in 1941. During that time, my mother, her brother and sister were born. My mother has written a book about their time in Japan, and we have grown closer to the past as a result. Although the time of the lead-up to Pearl Harbor and the war are painful memories to the Japanese, they have enthusiastically received the translation of my mother's book. The book teaches them more about this difficult period of their past than they learn at school, where they are still often being presented as the liberators of Asia. But the Japanese venerate the past. The place we were going is a perfect example of this. We took the bullet train to Kyoto. For thousands of years, Kyoto served as the cultural and spiritual capital of Japanese civilization, from the 8th century to the end of the 19th century, a place of palaces and temples, some quite odd. This one seemed to be devoted to, pigs. But nowhere are the traditions of the past more evident and enjoyable than at a traditional Kyoto-style restaurant like Kinmata. It's been operating here for over 200 years and still has classical Japanese-style rooms with tatami matting and sliding panels. We were served by ladies in kimonos and ate classic Kyokassadi Japanese cuisine, each dish a work of art. Sea urchin, mountain potato, chrysanthemum flour and tofu pear sauce, egg tofu, snapping turtle manju, scallion and mushroom, Spanish mackerel, tilefish, yuba, taro potato, duck lily bulb, ginger, powdered rice cracker, fig tempura and grated radish and ginger, and a funny little man hanging on the edge of my plate. Eggplant, chestnuts, chrysanthemum leaf, dingaku mizu, seed sweet fish, bone chips, shallot with miso, the cutest little soy sauce pot in the world, red miso soup with Nameco mushrooms. Finally, pear chestnuts cake, suhama, that's soybean cake, and 2 little Japanese sweets, washed down with some traditional Japanese green tea, and then some more tea. What a meal! We were guests of Mrs. Amizo Tutsi and Mrs. Saiko Mizutani. Mrs. Tutsi is 100 in April and was actually taught by my grandfather in the 1930s in a theological college. She is a remarkable woman, not just because of her age. She was the only woman who got to that sort of level of theological education in Japan in the 1930s. There she is, in the picture, in the front right.
Only one girl.
Only one? That was yours?
Very special. Very special.
We felt very lucky and full to have been included in this continuing Japanese tradition, and yet again had received fabulous hospitality and friendship from our Japanese hosts. But it was time to move further back in the past than my grandparents, or even Kyoto. To really understand Japan's past, continued into the present, you have to go to Nara. Nara was Japan's first imperial city in 710 AD. Here you can see the majestic Nandaimon Gate standing over 63 foot high, the Kofukuji Temple with its imposing 5-story pagoda, the Kasuga Grand Shrine that is still a place of worship for emperors and aristocracy. But everywhere you go in Nara there are wonders to be seen. Torii gates, temples, sacred waters, fantastical sculpture, and tranquil scenes, but nowhere is more impressive than a Tudaji. The main structure of the Buddhist temple is the massive Dai Butsudan. It is the world's largest wooden building. It houses the great Buddha, nearly 50 feet tall, a gigantic cast bronze statue. With his right hand he bestows spiritual tranquility, and with his left wishes. Figures either side embody wisdom and happiness. Mind you, happiness seems to be able to be acquired by squirming through Buddha's nostril. Some, it seems, do not approve. Rubbing the foot of a statue outside can remove ailments. Physician, heal thyself. Nara is popular with school parties, loud, organised, and wearing yellow caps.
We are students of Kamino Elementary School in Osaka.
We are learning about a foreign country.
Ah, we are from England.
But have you noticed, it's not children who dominate Nara, it's the Seeker deer. They are everywhere, and appear gentle and orderly, and queue up for things. But don't be fooled.
This is where you buy the food.
I ain't got any. No.
Oh yes, deer rule in Nara, protected by their status as messengers of the gods, although what message they are giving is quite hard to tell. Sounds like squeaking to me, but they do provide a good excuse for a classic Japanese sign. Dogs do, of course, insist on their own rights, and there is the odd rare maverick in Japanese society who disobeys rules. Most drink sake and escape to temples and shrines, safe places away from the deer. This all got me thinking, all these incredible shrines and temples of Kyoto and Nara. Most Japanese say they are followers of both Shinto and Buddhism, and that makes about 127 million Japanese, as that's how many live in Japan, out of a total world population of around 130 million. So that's a lot of Shintoists and Buddhists. These places continue to operate and function as places of real dedicated worship. They're not just relics from the past.
Japanese citrus.
Here are some recent records of people who have donated money to the upkeep of a Shinto shrine. We happily participated in some of the rituals and practices.
Palm of your hand.
Yes, and drinking.
Great good fortune.
Wow, best one. Yeah.
Aren't all religions just climbing a mountain to enlightenment from different sides? We went to our hosts Shikako and her mother's house in Nara, It was good to see a traditional house with no no chairs. We had traditional Japanese green tea
Tonight are a little more old than when we were last.
and admired the traditional autumn decorations and ornaments. Overall, I had learnt that the Japanese revere their past, as they see it very much as a continuation and part of their present. I like that. But after all this philosophising, time for a drink.
Mum hits the bottle.
He literally hits the bottle.
Back in Kyoto, the next day started with heavy rain and loud sirens. Stressful stuff. We took refuge in Nijo Castle. A place of great beauty. And calm surroundings. It was designed to be quiet, except in one respect, the nightingale floor. It squeaks like the nightingale bird when you tread on it, so the shogun would be warned of any would-be assassin. You're not allowed to film inside, so enjoy the view. And no scribbling. But for beauty, there's nowhere quite like Kinkaku, the Golden Pavilion. A Buddhist hall that claims to contain relics of Buddha himself. The garden and buildings centered on the Golden Pavilion are said to represent the pure land of Buddha in this world. A place to reach the sublime state of nirvana. But if Nijo represents calm authority, the Golden Pavilion beauty, then Ryoanji Temple represents peace. The Zen Buddhist temple is set in beautiful grounds with lots of lotus leaves floating on ponds and statues of Buddha. But its centerpiece is a rock garden. It is 30 by 10 meters area. No trees, no shrubs, just 15 stark rocks standing in clusters amid the perfectly raked white gravel. People have been seeing things in a rock garden since it was created in the 15th century. Islands in a stream, swimming baby tigers, peaks of mountains rising above the clouds. A scientist said, the implicit structure of the garden is designed to appeal to the viewer's unconscious visual sensitivity of axial symmetry skeletons of stimulus shapes. Which I think you'll agree sounds like bollocks. When looking at the garden from any angle, the maximum one can see is 14 boulders. Only through attaining enlightenment can you see the 15th. But whatever you see in this mesmerizing white gravel, perhaps the most important thing is not what you see, but a feeling of stillness and calm, of peace. Something we could all do with a lot more in our lives. I'll leave you with some pictures of, well, whatever you see.